I have pleasure to invite Dr. P.K. Mishra, Professor of GI Surgery at GB Pant Hospital, Delhi, to talk on landmark publication in colorectal surgery.
Thank you, Chairpersons. Ladies and gentlemen, my mandate today is to talk on colorectal surgery, three landmark papers. What I have done is I have gone through the PubMed, then collected some individual articles from high impact journals, and then with a single criteria of change in practice, I have chosen three papers to be presented over. So this, I have already, these articles have been shortlisted, and I shortlisted 13 articles on the basis of whether they would cause change in practice. This is the short list, but we do not have the time to go through each one of them. And my first paper over here is long-term follow-up of the Medical Research Council classic trial of conventional versus laparoscopically assisted resection in colorectal cancer. This was published in British Journal of Surgery, November 2012. This is a multi-institutional randomized controlled trial. Colon and rectum both were included, and the initial results had established the safety and feasibility of the procedure. Immediate results established the short-term outcomes, and in this paper they have come with long-term follow-up reported, and there was a median follow-up of 63 for all patients and 92 months follow-up for those who were surviving. There were a total of 794 patients, 413 colonic versus 381 rectal carcinoma patients. They used 2:1 randomization. So therefore 526 in the laparoscopic group versus 268 in the open group. The recruitments were done from 1996 to 2002 in 27 centers all over UK. The longer term outcomes have been reported. Key secondary outcomes, the overall survival, disease-free survival, wound and port metastasis, and local and distant recurrence have been reported. So 796 patients, they have been 794 patients, and we have the maximum that was available was about 9 years of survival in all these groups, and these have been reported. So the results showed that overall survival in both open and the laparoscopic group, both in the colon and rectum, as well as the disease-free survival, there was no difference in the outcomes. These are the charts for overall survival, both for colon on this side. Can I have the pointer, please? And the rectal cancer also, there was no difference in survival. The disease-free survival or the cumulative risk of local recurrence, there was also no difference between the two groups. Overall median survival was worse in patients who underwent conversions, that is 59 compared to 78 in the open and 95 months for converted laparoscopic open and laparoscopically successful cases. Significant, this was conversion factor was significant only in colonic cancer, but not in the rectal cancer. There was a slight trend favoring open surgery in stage 3 TNM. There was improved early survival in the laparoscopic rectal group. 129 patients had recurrence, 40 in the open and 89 in the lab. We'll remember that there's 2:1 randomization, and the recurrence was more common in the right compared to the left-sided colonic cancer and more in rectal cancer compared to the colonic cancers. 12 patients had wound side recurrence, 10 in the port and 2 in the open wound. So they concluded that there is evidence to support lab-assisted surgery and that it should be the treatment of choice. There is earlier functional recovery with similar long-term survival. In this, earlier results had shown that there is 12% circumferential margin positivity in the lab group compared to only 6% in open. Apparently, this has not influenced the results. The conversion rate of 27% and the worst result in the group as well as higher leak rates were also of concern. Purported advantage of early recovery was offset by the converted group mortality of about 13% Again, sexual and urinary dysfunction in the lab group was 43 versus 23 in the open group. Still, there is strong evidence to support that laparoscopic approach as an alternative for both colon and rectal cancer may be justified. My second paper is on survival analysis of liver first reverse management of advanced simultaneous colorectal liver metastasis. This is a liver metastasis survey based study. This is a multicentric study from Switzerland, France, Portugal, Belgium, Italy, and actually 52 countries. This was published in Annals of Surgery in November 2012. Colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer in the West and causes 10% of all cancer deaths. Approximately 25% of the colorectal cancer present with liver metastasis, which is the determinant of survival. Classical approach is resection of the primary, followed by chemotherapy, followed by colorectal liver metastasis resection. Many months of chemotherapy leads to progression of the colorectal liver metastasis, and only about 50% of the patients are able to complete the classical treatment. So the reversed approach was suggested by this group in 2006, which includes the neoadjuvant chemotherapy targeted to the liver metastasis, then followed by resection of the liver metastasis, followed by resection of the primary tumor. Aim was in the study to compare survival after reversed versus classical treatment of advanced synchronous colorectal liver metastasis. LiverMet survey is an international prospective registry of patients undergoing surgery for colorectal liver metastasis. Inclusion was that first colorectal liver metastasis surgery should have been done between 1st January 2000 to 31/12/2010, and oxaliplatin or irinotecan or both based neoadjuvant chemotherapy should have been used. Diagnosis of the colorectal liver metastasis should be within the 30 days of the primary. Colorectal liver metastasis and colorectal cancer surgery should be at least 10 days apart, and R0 resection should have been achieved. Exclusion criteria was if the dates or the simultaneous resection, etc., were uncertain. So out of the registry of 13,652 patients, after selecting from the various criteria, ultimately 787 patients have been analyzed in this study. The demographics were similar, except for there was a higher incidence of radiotherapy in the classical group. The oxaliplatin plus irinotecan was given more in this group, and otherwise there was some difference in primary lymph node metastasis also in the classical group. Otherwise, the CA, colorectal liver metastasis size, the Fong score, localization, number of metastasis, and dichotomous number of colorectal liver metastasis were all similar in the two groups. Overall survival in the two groups from the diagnosis as well as from the time of surgery was similar. The reverse, it was 42, and over here 55 in the classical. The difference was not significant. Disease-free survival again was very similar to the classical group, 30% at 5 years compared to 29% in the classical group. There was no difference found for colon versus rectum, no or whether there was neoadjuvant radiotherapy, and for lymph nodal metastasis. The authors have discussed that the neoadjuvant chemotherapy controls the disease at all sites before resection, but the number discarded in each group was not available, as this study was registry based. The study showed similar overall and disease-free survival in the two groups, successfully completing all steps. So therefore, a large randomized controlled trial with intention to treat analysis should be performed now to see that the reverse treatment offers cure for patients who would have become unresectable. This group has pioneered the liver first approach in 2006, but because this is a registry-based study, there is some granularity of data from the registry. There are differences in the treatment protocols of chemotherapy and radiotherapy in the two groups. Use of monoclonals has also not been stated. Both groups have patients by necessity that respond to the therapy. An intention to treat prospective trial would certainly be required, because if there is no difference in overall survival and disease-free survival, it becomes questionable to follow this approach. My third paper is from Annals of Surgery, published in July 2013. This is regarding, is stenting as a bridge to surgery an oncological safe strategy for the management of acute left-sided malignant colonic obstruction. This is a comparative study with a propensity score analysis published from 2 centers in France. The proposed advantages for stenting for malignant left colonic obstruction are that it converts the emergency situation to an elective situation with time for nutrition, bowel preparation, taking care of the comorbidities. Also proposed is that there is decreased stoma rates, both temporary as well permanent, and there is also decreased anastomotic leak rate, decreased morbidity and infective complications especially, and there is decrease in in-hospital mortality. But there are lots of problems with the STEMs, that the cost factor is there is a steep learning curve, technical success in many meta-analysis is only about 70%, then the complications of the stents are there, migration, pain, tenesmus, bleeding and obstruction. Then there is the issue of perforation with the stents with local and systemic dissemination, and long-term survival has been questioned in the palliative setting as well. So this study was done in left malignant colonic obstruction treated with curative intent between 1998 and 2011. Primary outcome was overall survival. Secondary outcome was 5-year overall survival and disease-free survival, cancer-specific mortality, recurrence, and mean time to recurrence. Overall survival was analyzed with propensity score to correct for selection bias. These are the two groups. The surgery group had 39 patients, and this is an intention to treat analysis. So SEMS failure have been analyzed in the same group, and SEMS group had 48 patients. 48 patients in SEMS group and 39 in surgery only group. There was 87% success for SEMS. Primary anastomosis was possible in 79% of the cases, but there was 18% leak rate, and the patients 50% had stoma at the time of discharge. Definitive stoma was there in 25% patient, which compared with the surgery group with 54% of stoma at discharge and definitive stoma at 33%, and there was no difference in morbidity and mortality. Overall and 5-year survival for surgery was 67%, which was significantly better than SEMS group, which was only 30% at 5 years. Cancer-specific mortality for SEMS group was 48 versus surgery only of 21. Again, 5-year disease-free survival, time to recurrence, and recurrence rate were also better in the surgery group, though this difference did not reach significance. So oncological outcome, there was significant difference when these were analyzed at 3 years and 5 years. At 5 years, 30 versus 67% survival. These are the survival curves which clearly indicate that SEMS group adversely affected the survival. And this is overall survival curve for SEMS and surgery only groups adjusted with a propensity score. Both surgery and SEMS were done by skilled teams. SEMS was possible technically in 87% of the cases. Major methodological bias has been eliminated with propensity score, and all endpoints are consistent and show a negative impact of the stent. This is certainly not a level 1 multi-center randomized controlled trial kind of an evidence, but it still is a very important study, re-emphasizing that all technologies should be embraced with caution. So what is the current status? There are no ongoing randomized controlled trials. 2 of the 4 randomized controlled trials had to be stopped due to high rate of stent-related complications, and stenting for acute malignant colonic obstruction may be a bridge to nowhere, as this editorial has suggested. Thank Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.